on now for another podcast, another book pod.
Another podcast. First of all, I want to congratulate us for sticking to this and continuing to do it. We're not sticking to a huge schedule, but I think we're doing really well, and and reading a lot of books.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's not easy reading books and then making a podcast, but then it becomes second nature.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, I'm reading books with my students, making YouTube videos for them, and I'm reading like like high school level books with them, um, and then all the crazy books that we read, and then it is crazy.
And I forgot that author that I think I mentioned last time is South African or African author. I think his name is McCall. And he writes ladies' detective agency books. They're simple, but the language is fairly simple but articulate, and they're kind of interesting because they're mysteries. So you might want to look I can't remember his name. I completely forgot that I was going to check, but I think his last name is McCall, and it's the #1 ladies detective agency.
That was a HBO show, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. But he's written a lot of books, and of course, it has a rather British slant to it, but the language is rather British, I think. But still, I think they're pretty good. I think they'd be a good choice for student reading.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm thinking.
Yes. Let's see. So I just woke up, and we're going to talk about this book, Casino Royale, James Bond,
Yes.
Episode 1. And
It is Episode 1. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was a pretty, I don't know, it was kind of, what's the word? I thought like stark. There's of detail or of, helpful language for the reader. It's pretty much lots of like acronyms. James called up the BTS and then talked to head of S and then M, and it's like, well, who are these people? There's just no explanation. So was it well known at the time in I don't even know when this was written, in the 1960s?
Well, no, it was published in 1953, and of course not. Of course not. And he's sort of establishing the spy novel, right? And so, of course, it's going to be cloaked in mystery. We're not supposed to know all this stuff. So, but I think, I didn't research this very carefully, but I think I'm wondering if he is responsible for all these acronyms. Like the one that shows up in this novel is SMERSH, and that is a Russian retaliatory arm of the secret police of the Kremlin. And so the timing of this, the first James Bond novel during the Cold War, post World War II. So now that, people that were allies during the war, and now the Nazis have, been defeated. And so now we have to look around for other enemies. And of course, the big enemy is Russia.
Right. Yep. And we learned in Oppenheimer, the movie, that one of the guys that he took into the secret team to work on it was actually a Russian spy, and that was how they got the almost same bomb power. Did you see that Oppenheimer?
Well, no, I haven't seen it.
Oh, you didn't? Oh.
I'm reminded of Master and Commander. They show up somewhere in a boat, in a ship, and then there's the enemy right there. And the doctor says, well, they have their spies as we do. So spying, or being a spy, or being a turncoat in, and still continuing in, or being a double agent. This is all language that maybe the language is new, but the professions are old. And so this has been going on forever.
Yeah, and that's funny you said that a group Smersh, and I didn't really comprehend what they were, just the bad guys. But yeah, I guess that's right. They're kind of like the Russian like black ops team of, they're just like literally just assassins. Um,
Yeah.
spies might go in to like get some information or photograph something or find something out, but yeah, they're like the
Hmm.
revenge. Okay, well, we have to kill you, so we send in these guys just to murder.
Yeah,
And
to
so
get
that's
to murder Russian agents that have gone bad, or that have done something they shouldn't have done. So I think what this, maybe this was before, but what we have here, we have the formula for the James Bond. We have James Bond acting like James Bond, and we also have some kind of supervillain. The first movie, the first James Bond movie was Doctor No, not Casino Royale, and they recently did Casino Royale, and they changed it a little bit. But Doctor No again has that super enemy that has some kind of quirkiness about him, but of course James Bond has to defeat him completely. So our villain in this is Le Chiffre. He's got a French name. I think he was a, you know, Le Chiffre means digit. So he was a number. He was assigned a number as a refugee, I think, from the war. But he's a Russian agent. However, Smersh is after him because he has mishandled money, and he's loose with money. He's profligate with gambling and not being a good agent. Also, the French police are after him because they just instituted new anti-vice laws, and so his prostitution rings and all his other vices, they're looking for him. And of course, because he's a Russian agent, MI5, the British Secret Service, as well as the CIA, are after him also. And NATO is mentioned. They just want him to be humiliated and discredited because he's a Russian agent and because he's doing all this bad stuff.
yeah. So yeah. So another thing, yeah, lots of I didn't meant I meant the language was what did I say? Stark. I meant it was kind of like Spartan. Maybe that's a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Just very like,
Mm-hmm.
here's, we don't really give you more. We don't really give you that much. But also, yeah, lots of French in there.
Oh,
And,
God, that drove me crazy.
yeah, and so
That drove me crazy. I hate that.
similar to the what's it called, Blood Meridian, where but
The
though
Spanish.
that
Mm-hmm.
one felt like it was intentionally trying to just confuse you and just mystify you into thinking this is some major like work of profundity or something. This is like, no, we're in France and they speak French, and it's, don't worry about it. They're just
But they're not speaking French at the time. It's in the offices of MI5. The spies, M and the other spies are talking, and he gets this report with a bunch of French in it. He says, if I want to, I don't want this. What does this mean? Translate this. But I think it is. I think what Ian Fleming is going for here, because he was a bit of a snob, is a kind of internationalism. And at the time, French was the diplomatic language. And so, being bilingual and being able to speak French, even if you're British, it indicates status, I think. And I think that's part of what's going on. Not only that they're located in a French-speaking area. I think it's a little bit of snobbery going on.
Yeah, it's something going on.
It
Another
was annoying as hell. I hate it. I wrote that the first note I wrote in my notes on this book. I hate this sprinkling of French.
another thing that was kind of noticeably good was how when Casino Royale the movie, or I also thought of like Mission Impossible movies, how like music just like thrusts the story forward all the
Mm.
time, and how
Hmm.
every scene change, every like shot of a building or of like a helicopter view of some overview of a city, it's always some like orchestral music, and how like, oh, this is better, how he's just thinking to himself, he looks at something, he sees something, he does something. So more
Hmm.
kind of like kind of like Sherlock Holmes-ish. The I mean that
Hmm.
show had music too, but the more I thought about how the movies James Bond had all this music in it, which I like, but the book has a totally different, again, like a more, maybe that's more stark, how he observes, he understands, he kind of makes mental notes of all these things, which in the movie, when it just shows him looking around, he's like, yeah, it was more like the music made it seem like he looks around like, yeah, I can handle whatever, like it'll probably, he just had a sense of like it'll probably be okay. But
Hmm.
This James Bond had more of a Sherlock of calculating most things
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Like he wasn't so cool. He was like more professional,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
guess.
I think that's an interesting observation about the music because yeah, it drives the dramatic moments or creates drama where maybe no drama is really required. It makes the excitement because we may we may have we may only hear it subconsciously, but that's yeah, that's really important. And also part of the James Bond franchise, the movie, who sings the opening song and the opening credits with all the drama going on with that was a big deal and continues to be. That's I think he was more professional. So I did want to talk a little bit about the differences between the movie and this book. So
Wait,
this
wait,
was the
wait!
first.
I just thought of one more thing. I
Oh,
thought one thing. So
oh, okay,
I
okay.
thought maybe what the music does is it
Uh huh.
amplifies the character, making you think it's literally like a superhuman. Like when Superman is revealed, or when the whatever, But so that's what that did when he's driving in a car, or oh yeah, in the movie too, the car chases and fist fights with lots of music that you're just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, this guy's gonna win. He's untouchable. But in the book, it was more Sherlockish, which is like extraordinary human, where it's all like mental, or it's mostly mental instead of just an unbeatable person. Anyway, yeah, that was it.
I think that's another interesting observation because the movies are action movies, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Although I think they're listed as thrillers, but it's action, so you have to see all this. But we have like a thinking man's kind of spy here. Spies have to be intelligent. They have to
Yeah.
be clever, and they have to be, you know, intuitive and smart. So yeah, I think that's the difference between an action movie and a book. Absolutely, right there. Yeah,
Yep. Did you have another thing
I
about
was.
you were gonna say about the movie?
I do. Because I once we read the book, I went and watched the movie, or I streamed it. I should say I streamed the movie. So this really recent, fairly recent. It's Daniel Craig is playing James Bond. Even though Woody Allen did a kind of satire, I think, of Casino Royale, which I've never seen, but it's comedy and it's a satire. But the Daniel Craig, first of all, the Daniel Craig character is much more muscular. And although James Bond was always handsome, he wasn't, you know, ripped the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
that action stars have to be today. And also, in the movie, he was a new agent and he didn't have his double O designation yet, which means He's killed two people in cold blood, which is the double O designation. It's the license to kill, which is another phrase that comes from these Ian Fleming books. So he's kind of not necessarily young, but new, untested, sort of. And the other thing is, the leader of MI5 in the movie is a woman, Judi Dench.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This changes the whole dynamic totally, because in the book, when M tells him he's going to go humiliate Le Chiffre, the dialogue between them is very much almost between equals. So it's almost like, what do you think, old boy? Should we do this? You know, it's this really British gentleman thing going on. And complete confidence in Bond to take care of business because, of course, he's a gifted gambler. But in the movie, he's untried and he's a little bit in the doghouse because they had this big scene before in Africa where he blew up a factory or something. And so he's in a little bit of trouble with Judi Dench. He's also hasn't quite earned or just earned his double O designation. And so she thinks he's a little bit of a loose cannon. And so the relationship is very much more maternal, I thought, and scolding. Whereas, you know, in the book they're much more equal, and the expectation is not never in doubt. I just thought that was kind of interesting that people can look at a movie and read a book and think, what am I going to pull out of this book? And how am I going to change this for an audience that's, you know, almost not 100 years later, but getting up there. So I thought that was kind of an interesting comparison. I don't usually like to do movie book comparisons, but I thought those 2 points were really significant. And I didn't consider the music. You know, when you and I watch a movie, you always hear the music more than I do. I always hear the dialogue, but you always hear the music. So you make interesting insights regarding that.
I want to say that, yeah, I would bet the movies were like a major cultural, international, like, work, because they go to different locations, some kind of beach, some kind of urban place, some kind of and they have cars. Everyone knows what the cars are. It's like a 10-minute commercial for this famous actor driving this car that you're gonna watch. Even like the watches that he would wear. It's like a huge commercial. And I watched one called Moonraker with the Bond whose name, not Timothy Dalton, I think Roger something.
I think of Roger Moore with the blonde one.
Yeah,
right.
and there was a car chase where literally every turn had like Canada Dry ginger ale in.
Oh, really?
In like and they're in Italy, in like Italian hillside or something, and it was like wow, that's a lot of advertising. But that's how, I'm sure that's how they funded it, because they have to pay all these every different location. You have different squads of camera people. Can we just use people there? We don't want to bring everybody there. Bring our own stuff. Can we use them? So you try to get companies to help you pay for it. And then also, yeah, the intro song was probably cutting edge CG, where kaleidoscopic lights and like women dancing were overlapped, and then the song itself was probably, every other movie soundtrack was orchestral, or would maybe borrow an already existing song, but this would be together, like branded as this singer does this song, and you could sell the record. You could sell back in those days. You'd sell like the single album. So it's just like a money machine back then.
It's branding. You know, it's so branding at a high level. Disney, almost Disney-like. Not as good as Disney, but pretty darn good. It was like a coup to be selected to sing the opening song. And it was always original. And it was a big deal where Shirley Bassey sang the song. This time, Adele singing the song. It was huge. Paul McCartney. You know, it's really a big deal. Yeah, for the movies. And I think that they introduced a lot of international stars. It had a much more European focus. especially for American audiences. And it lionized. I was surprised. I'm surprised to hear you say Canada Dry Ginger Ale, but I think it always lionized British product. You know, the cars were, and the watches and the cameras and that kind of thing were sort of, you know, only in Britain, the quality and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was some soda. It might have been like 7 Up even.
Hmm.
I don't know. But also there's that name that jumps out every movie, that guy blah blah broccoli. Like
Yeah,
Miss
Alberto Broccoli's big
so
Italian producer.
so who yeah, well, yeah, so was he the yeah, the head honcho who would organize all these things and then execute to make a
I don't
hit
know.
every time? So
I don't know.
yeah.
I think he was just the money. He was the money, I think. And yeah, I think I don't know. I don't know the history of that, but I do know the name struck a chord. And his, you know, his granddaughter or daughter or somebody is still involved. Her name is on the current ones.
Well, every time I assume that's the writer by broccoli. I'm like, oh, that's not English. And then the next name, Fleming. Oh, okay. Or Ian is
Yeah,
like a British
Fleming
name.
is the writer. Yeah, and I think Broccoli was just the money. He was the producer, I think. So that means is the money.
So yeah, it took me a while to get through the book because I don't know why. I was kind of like the chapters were short, like sometimes like 5 pages or 4 pages, kind of like the Da Vinci Code. You're just like flying through all these pages, but um I guess also because I didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't
Hmm.
understand the poker game Baccarat. I didn't
Oh
know
God, I know, I know.
there
It's
was.
so well. I think that's part of the selling point. These exotic locations and this exotic, you know, card game played by gentlemen in tuxedos at a, you know, rich casino, and then of course a beautiful woman that Bond is going to seduce. So, and then the danger, you know, then of course he's in mortal danger, of course. Yeah, I think for American audiences and maybe, you know, post-war, it's indicative of post-war where people want to reach out and see exotic and built up and beautiful locations and people doing things that are not related to war that are, you know, elegant and glamorous, having fancy clothes and playing in expensive games. And Baccarat, I mean, who can understand that? Not me. And it even went into detail. And yeah, I have enough trouble with 21 and forget it.
Yeah, yeah, that was, and they would speak French in the game. So there was that part. There was also like a part about Bond's neighbors upstairs were watching him, but it's okay because we know that. And 2 people got blown up outside, but you know, don't worry about that. He and Bond got blown up too a little bit. Um, he does meet the CIA guy who is in the movie,
Hmm.
and he he does win. Well, is there one other thing I forgot that was kind of like, yeah, it was just kind of like it was I was too much like, is this going to be resolved later? Like who are these other parties that are messing with him? Even when he got a gun pulled on him in the gambling room, I wasn't sure like how did he get out of that? What he like fell down?
You know,
Was it?
he did it. No, he did a backflip. He did a backflip. Um, it was pretty shocking, I thought. To you know, it was pretty shocking because it wasn't suave at all, and it wasn't smooth, and it wasn't effortless. So what's interesting about this is, yeah, he's, you know, Bond has this cool demeanor, but really, he's kind of emotional here. And he describes his fear. He has sort of a PTSD after certain events, and this torture that he endured left him with a long recovery.
Yeah. That's maybe where I kind of slowed down reading because the whole a long second half was like, all right, come on, hurry up. Um,
Yeah, well, because we've got the whole emotional how we said he was going to give it up. They have philosophical conversations. He was going to give it up for Vesper, but he's always a little bit suspicious of her, and turns out she's a double agent. So I think the people upstairs, and I think it just shows that everybody's spying on everybody else, and they're handled so easily with just a little loud radio. And the other guys, the Bulgarians who get blown up with the red bag and the blue bag, I wasn't exactly sure. I think it's just sort of a danger everywhere, and this is all going on, and they're the only ones that know about it. And I'm not exactly sure. I think it might just be to sort of generate a little more interest in the situation. I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess it did intertwine with the movie enough that I'm like, okay, now it's going to be like the movie okay, so he wins the game, he's overconfident, and then the girl, his assistant, or his counterpart from another group of the government gets kidnapped. I'm like, okay, this is the movie. He chases, but then he crashes, and then they kidnap him, and then yeah, he's tortured. Um, and they want the money back. His winnings are in some kind of check from the casino. Like, give us that check, and he's like, no. And then he's rescued by the Smersh agent, who is like, I'm here to kill Lashif, and I don't have to kill, so you can
Yeah,
you
I
can
can let
go.
you go. Yeah.
And so I was really hung up on, like, is that gonna go somewhere? Wait, what is that? Yeah, so I was getting confused by how similar it was to the movie, but also different. But that was also strange. Like, if an assassin, if a person sees you assassinate someone, you're probably gonna kill that guy too, because who cares? Like, what's the
Well,
difference?
because you're all in the game, and so you don't have to kill him. You don't. You follow orders, or he's not going to. Who's he going to report him to? So I think it's all part of that. What do I want to say? This otherworldly element of these spies that are everywhere, and all this kind of stuff going on all the time, and they're known to each other, and they play by the rules, sort of thing. That's what I think is going on.
Yeah, he leaves them with like a tattoo or like a mark that you were spared by Smersh. He cut
Oh,
like
I
yeah
don't.
he
Oh,
cut he cuts an M into his hand. That's like
oh, I don't remember that part at all. How weird.
so.
Huh.
And in the movie though, Bond has a friend, a French friend called Malthus, who is trying to be James Bond's friend, but actually he's Le Chiffre's friend who helps Bond lose the card game. In the movie, in the book, he's 100% with Bond. He doesn't
And I
betray
and
him.
I think he is with Bond in the movie also. But for some reason, Bond is suspicious of him. But it's really, Vesper that's the bad person, the double
Yeah,
agent.
yeah,
So I
both of
think.
them.
Do you think he was also in the movie? I don't think so.
Yeah, in the
I was
movie,
kind of.
I think Malthus gives him the tip that when he's bluffing, he touches his eye, which like he tells him that I think he touches his eye when he's bluffing. So Bond goes all in when he sees him touch his eye, and then but
Oh.
then Le Chiffre has good cards and wipes him out and wipes out Bond, saying, and then he says like,
Oh.
"Oh, did you hear that my eye is something? I guess you shouldn't.
Oh.
I guess you shouldn't
See,
trust your friends."
everybody knows everything. It's like they take the time to set up an alter ego for Bond, but Le Chiffre knows who he is, and they call each other by their regular names. So I think it's all. I didn't remember that aspect.
Yeah, and the movie was pretty cool because then when Bond gets wiped out, he gets really angry. He like grabs a knife and he's just gonna go like do this mission with a knife. And then the CIA guy is like, "What are you doing? Like, calm down. I'll give you money." And he goes, "Oh, really? Okay." Then he comes back to the game to play again, But
Yeah.
in the book, Bond is just like literally hoping he gets a good card to win,
Mm-hmm.
and then loses. He's like, well, I didn't win that one. And then by miracle, he gets a fat envelope from the CIA saying, "Hey, here's one more chance." And he goes, "Oh, good." And then by
Yeah.
miracle, he wins.
We'll finance you. Yeah, and there was a lot in the book about, his system, but everybody knows that gambling is there's no system really. I thought there was a lot of time spent on the statistical system that Bond considers as he observes things, but it was all just kind of silly. And I'm no gambler, so, but it's all part of his persona, being a skilled gambler, handsome, attractive to women, and able to get out of all kinds of difficult situations, observant, takes the precautions with the door and the hair on the bureau and stuff like that. So I think he's building a character, and this was the introduction. And they had to establish his bona fides from the get-go.
Yeah, another thing he talks about the parabola of when he's being tortured, how there's the escalation of just like this of pain and this is horrible. But then eventually it goes down and you're like, "Oh, this is not so bad," or "I'm used to it." And then you like it. He says he explains that a tortured person then like looks forward to it or some crazy
Yeah, it was kind of
psychology of it.
interesting.
And I
Yeah,
was like, "Is that real?" But
I think it might be.
you look
He also
forward to being tortured if you're there long
Well,
enough.
your anticipation of the blow, I suppose. I would imagine that probably. I don't know, but he also talks about parabola with a love affair,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of an interesting,
Yeah, he's like
parallel.
he's a renaissance man of math in different situations.
I think I don't know what this book did for the British audience, but I think it might have been that reaching out to glamorous areas and beautiful people and doing sort of semi-normal things, even though you're aware of danger because you have to have that tension with the spies everywhere. And I think that that's definitely what it did for the American audience, and that is, over there, those foreign areas, places that I'm never going to go. These fancy casinos in France and fast cars and loose women. Excellent, fun to read.
Yeah, it was. I think it kind of maybe Americans they think about the they're more the nouveau riche or something like, oh, my parents got rich, now I'm rich. But then there's a whole dimension of rich that's like, my family's had this land for like 500 years and we don't even know, how much money we have, but and we know government and companies ask us for our opinions on things or stuff like that, and that's just like what, which is not American. So
No, but the Americans come through at the end with a bag of cash and get you through the poker game. That's what
yeah,
Americans do.
yeah. So like the aristocratic seaside villas and saloons and yeah, just like speaking French or whatever in different places. Yeah, that's like a different universe. Kind of
So which
like that. What's it called? The what do we rules of civility? The divide between
Yeah,
this like recent rich and just like struggling poor or struggling person, or
yeah.
this is like not that. This is a European rich or
It's
lifestyle.
like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing, I was surprised by the fact that he did have emotions and talked about emotions and felt actual fear. I thought that was kind of interesting. Made him human. He's supposed to look like Hoagie Carmichael, and a picture of Hoagie Carmichael at this time is good-looking guy. Sort of looks like Sean Connery with dark hair and kind of a narrowish face. But and it had the sort of racism and misogyny of the time. So the women that are in these movies are always called Bond girls. They're always girls. They're always girls. They're never women. And the what the bad guys, what their physical characteristics look like, indicating certain Jewish blood or something like that. I think that's probably par for the course for 1950, 1953.
I want to talk about all of Bond's like screw ups, if I can even remember them all.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
he gets blown up. It shows him like I see a guy over there, two guys holding suitcases. One of them like lifts it up and throws it over here. What's he doing? And then he gets blown up.
Mm.
Another part I thought was, yeah, when or maybe not he screws up, but where he's just not as elegant at all as the movie version. Maybe he falls down to avoid when the guy has the gun on him during the card game. Another, yeah,
Hmm.
I was like, what did he do? What? And
Backflip. That was the backflip,
but
right? The guy with the cane.
but when he said, "Oh, sorry, I'm just I fainted. I'm feeling
Yeah,
sick."
yeah.
And everyone would be like, "What? What are you talking about?"
What? Show vulnerability. Also, he missed the whole cue. Like he saw the cane and he said, "How did they allow that guy in here with the cane? I know those are not allowed." And he brushed it off. So he missed that.
Yeah. And he like yeah, he just loses the card game just like a normal player. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that was a very that's just a typical loser who just loses. Okay. That didn't seem very Bondish.
Hmm.
And then the other one was at the end when he's on his honeymoon with the girl, and the girl's clearly freaking out that there's a suspicious guy following them, and he goes like, "Oh, who is it? That guy? Oh, he's totally normal." And he's got
Yeah, yeah.
although he does have an eye patch on. That is kind of weird, but maybe he lost his eye.
And her reticence, her hot and cold thing, and he just kind of brushes that off too. I think I don't know, maybe the writer had to do it in order to maintain the tension, but yeah, he does seem to miss a few cues there.
Yeah, that was okay. That kind of sudden change, but this better get figured out quick. And yeah, and then yes, so the does she betray him? She she was under the control of spies because she had a boyfriend who was captured, and she was being leveraged to feed them information, but she's trying to give them little by little or hardly anything. But
Well, that's
sh-
certainly what I remember from the what happened. That's certainly what I remember from the movie, but I've got an echo now all of a sudden. But from the book, she was just double agent, and I don't know why. Oh, here we go.
yeah, in the book, they use a way to transfer a money with an ATM machine where he enters a PIN number and then the money's transferred to the account that she puts in because she's like the accountant
Hmm.
character.
Right.
And then they're like, Bond, where's that money? And he's like, what? And because she put in another account to send it somewhere else, and he has the PIN, the secret number. So
Hmm.
she does steal the money, but then later when in another fight scene she kind of drowns herself or doesn't want to get saved. But in the book, I think that everybody's after that where's that check? And so she's supposed to come up with it, and but she like poisons herself and leaves a suicide note. So so yeah, Bond is shocked, and then his last they're like someone asks him like what about your other operative, and he just says the bitch is dead. So he's become cold-hearted and
Yeah. He
stone
has to
faced.
become cold-hearted. I think that the only thing that's interesting also is that in the movie she has a function, and in the book she really has no function, and she's just a girl, the girl that M gives to Bond to be kind of an assistant, but at least at least in the movie she has a function.
Yeah, in the book, there's lots of him complaining that it's her fault that they're captured and that they're tortured. Like she went out there and just got shoved into a car, and then he chased her. He thought like, well, why am I even chasing her? I mean, she works for the company. She knows this is part of the deal. I should just get out of here. I'm like, let's see let's try to catch him. But then they drop a trap, like some road spikes, and then his car crashes. Then they capture him. Now they're both in the car. Another inelegant part was where they're getting pushed into like a house, walking down some stairs, and he goes like, "Okay, I'm just gonna jump and kind of kick the shit out of the first guy, and then take out the second guy." And so then he like jump kicks, and they stop it immediately, and he falls down. Like it's like why was that put in there? Just we have to
I know,
show
why even bother?
yeah, we have to show his last attempt at becoming free, but that didn't work. So then
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It was, but I think in the book he's a little bit more human. So
yeah.
he's not, the super spy that as what he is portrayed in the movies.
Yeah, I liked it. Mm, yeah, I liked it as a
For that reason, yeah, for that
like that's
reason, it's better.
what's funny. James Bond movies are like hit or miss, where it's like I don't care about this at all, or this is kind of neat. Like yeah, the Casino Royale was good, and then they tried to make another hit like that, and every single one after it was just like this is not as good as that first one. They made like four more with
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Craig, or three
Mm-hmm.
more, and it was like this is why did you screw it up? Why?
Why are you still talking? Yeah, I haven't seen them all. I've only watched one, actually, I guess. Were you
Yeah,
surprised that he smoked 70 cigarettes a day?
70 cigarettes.
That's more than 3 packs.
I didn't know.
Three packs
I didn't notice that.
is 60 cigarettes. Yeah. He took cold showers and he smoked 70 cigarettes a day.
Uh, hmm. Yeah, that was part of the tempo. I was like reading it quickly, like, yeah, it gets in the shower, cold shower, of course, gets out, has a coffee, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this tempo. But then it just slowed down a lot
Hmm.
at some point, and I just kind of stopped picking it up so much. But yeah, I bought with this book, two other ones came with it, and I think one of them is that spy that loved me or something, and uh, another one I forget.
Is that John Le Carre, the
No,
spy who
no,
loved me?
no, two other James Bond ones.
Oh, they are. Oh.
But yep,
Yeah, I read these books a long time ago when I was into reading lots of spy novels, and they nothing special. The movies are better, I think.
I thought the only old one I watched was that Moonraker, and I thought this is like kind of a weird comedic
Yeah,
cool world tour. I don't even know it. Kind of, it seemed very Austin Powers ish,
yeah,
which of making fun of James Bond.
exactly.
But
And I don't think Roger Moore was a good choice. I think they chose him for his humor, but I don't think it was very good.
yeah, that's what they say. There's other ones to watch, but yep, I like the book, so I'm gonna read more of them, and it was short, about 200 pages.
That's true. That's
Well,
true.
I
I
guess. Oh yeah.
I think this is, yeah, I don't have anything more to say really. And I am continuing to hear this echo, and I'm worried that, the the audio is not going to be very good, but
Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's okay.
fingers crossed. But I did choose the next book.
Dead Wake. Eric Larson. Last Crossing of Lusitania. Oh my God. We know how that
This
went
guy's
down.
a good writer. This guy's a good writer. I read Devil in White City a long time ago, which was about the Chicago World's Fair. And I read one about the Nazis, Garden. Anyway, this is about the Lusitania, which is it happened, I think, during World War I. He's a good writer. It's nonfiction. So that's the next book.
Oh, it looks huge.
Oh, not so bad. A lot of notes, a lot of notes, and an index. Oh my, a lot of notes.
Oh, boy.
357. Oh, those are acknowledgments. Still about 350 pages.
Oh,
350. Not too bad.
All right. The Last Wake.
Dead Wake.
Dead Wake.
Dead Wake.
All right. That will be the next one. And that does it for this pod. So we'll catch you in the next one. We are signing off.
Signing off. Echoes included. Oh my God, this is driving me nuts.